So it is February the 20th of 2019, and we're outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. We're engaged in peaceful public protest against Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse, Unitarian Universalist cover-up and denial of clergy abuse, which includes the sexual abuse of children, or what the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney, Maître Marc-André Coulombe, describes as such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. One of the issues that I'm protesting against is the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston, which represents Unitarian Universalism in the United States and also to some extent internationally. In fact, there's a certain number of Canadian Unitarian Universalist churches that are associated, members of the association, not the Unitarian Church of Montreal, but there are some other ones that are still members of the Unitarian Universalist Association. They essentially falsely accused me of violating Canada's blasphemy law and legal bullying that sought to intimidate me into taking down blog posts that told the readily verifiable truth about such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers, not to mention certain Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers. So that's one of the issues I'm protesting here. I obviously can't go down to Boston and protest all the time. I don't even have a passport right now, so.
Are they accused of that?
I was accused of blaspheming against the Unitarian Church because I spoke about pedophilia and rape committed by ministers. Protesting
in this church? No.
Not this local church. I spoke about cases in the United States, but the main office of the church hired a lawyer to accuse me of violating Canada's blasphemy law in an effort to shut me up.
But it didn't work.
It didn't work, obviously.
Well, it's all over the radio now anyway.
Yeah, well, not about the Unitarians, though.
Not about but you ever listen to NPR?
Oh, yeah.
It's like non-stop about the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it's not just the Catholics,
No, exactly. So you're very topical.
Yeah. Thank you, yeah. So as this woman pointed out, the whole issue of clergy sexual abuse and the cover-up and denial.
The thing that kills me is I listen to NPR every morning.
Right.
And there's not one time that anybody's talked about prosecution.
Prosecution?
Yeah.
Of the clergy, yeah, exactly, yeah.
They disrobe them.
Yeah, well, one or two have been, but yeah.
Yeah, but the majority are.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like you said, there's a difference between the church doing something and the police doing something.
If they ran a red light, would they get disrobed or would they get a ticket?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You're not going to be mean to him, are you, boys?
I don't think so. They might even pat me on the shoulder. Okay, so definitely back in the groove here in terms of protesting against Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse and the cover-up and denial thereof, not to mention some other issues. But unfortunately, the Unitarian Universalist Association, in falsely accusing me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel, in legal bullying that was clearly intended to intimidate me into memory holding blog posts that told the readily verifiable truth about pedophilia and rape committed by Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell of First Parish in Norwell, who, to the best of my knowledge, isn't even a Unitarian Universalist minister. They clearly were trying to hide pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalists, ministers or otherwise. And of course, the whole thing with the cease and desist demand letter is it's not just trying to get you to get rid of stuff that you've already said. It's also trying to shut you up. Cease and desist means stop. So they're basically saying don't say anything else either. And I have plenty more to say, I can assure you, about Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse, which includes pedophilia and rape, because believe me, it's not just Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell who are guilty of such despicable crimes. A certain number of other Unitarian Universalist ministers have been charged, tried, and convicted of pedophilia or rape. Some Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers have been charged, tried, convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So yeah, in fact, one of the demands that I made when the Unitarian Universalist Association falsely accused me of blasphemous libel was, basically I made 3 demands. I said, first of all, you're going to formally withdraw that false accusation. You're going to acknowledge that it is false, and you're going to withdraw it, which they haven't done yet. You're going to apologize publicly, and you're going to disclose exactly how many Unitarian Universalist ministers, not to mention Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, have been charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. Because I did not blog about all of them, I can assure you. I still haven't blogged about all of them. And I'm sure there's cases I don't even know about. You know, I'm sure one of the reasons that they're trying to shut me up is because they're trying to keep the lid on things. So, just going to check the time here, see what time it is. But yeah, it's been a pretty good little protest so far. And let's see here, 12:02. Okay. So yeah, we'll protest for another half hour or so. And see how things go. But it was interesting seeing Valerie Brogy, a longtime member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, who I haven't seen in a long time. You know, it's been quite some time since I've seen Valerie here at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. But she was putting on this lunch event thing. And so I thought, well, you know, all things considered, particularly in terms of the confusion regarding the conditions, whether or not I could actually protest on a Sunday, let alone a Wednesday, I decided, well, you know, I'm basically in the clear of Wednesdays. That's basically for sure. So I'll protest today, you know, just to remind the church that there are some issues that need to be dealt with, not only locally, but at the international level of Unitarian Universalism as well. So we'll protest, like I said, for about another half hour or so. Maybe longer, you know, maybe an hour, but not that much longer. You know, actually, come to think of it, in terms of bus schedules and such, I might even wrap this up earlier, like maybe within a few minutes. I think I've more or less made my point, and got plenty of video, interesting video. Got some photos of the protest. So, you know, I'm kind of happy that Valerie saw it, because hopefully she'll say a thing or two. She seemed to be oblivious to the fact that the church agreed to enter into talks with me. And I think that's because the church kept it a secret, essentially. You know, and like I said, one of the issues that I had in terms of lack of progress is the church did not announce to the congregation, you know, that it is engaging in dialogue with me towards the end of trying to resolve the dispute. So that was part of the issue. Is like, you know, for this to be viable, I think the congregation needs to know about it. And if you're not telling the congregation, well, it calls into question the whole sincerity of the church, you know, in terms of what they're doing. You know, they're just talking for the sake of talking. And unfortunately, in terms of what happened in December, you know, it really looks like they're more interested in damage control than genuine truth and reconciliation and genuine restorative justice. I've made numerous very valid suggestions for what they can do towards resolving this conflict, and they've done very few of them, and what few they've done, they haven't done adequately. But the only recommendation I made that they seem to have acted upon was that they should form a committee, a church committee, to deal with this. And the president of the church, who is the person most responsible for agreeing to talk and everything, did in fact put together a committee of 3 people, including himself, which was fair enough. But one of the people quit very, very soon afterwards, basically claiming health reasons, so it was down to 2 people. And then he goes to Chile for a few months in the winter, basically has his summer in Chile. Talks were supposed to continue anyway with other representatives of the church, according to my understanding of things. But essentially he went off to Chile, and nobody, is basically there to engage in discussions in February and March and April. The minister of the church, Reverend Diane Rollert, doesn't seem very keen on participating, so that's another serious issue, because if the minister of the church doesn't want to participate in truth and reconciliation dialogue and doesn't want to participate in restorative justice, well, that's a problem. So there's unfortunately not enough progress and too many signs of foot dragging and so on that I really do feel the need to protest. And the other thing too is that these issues, many of the issues aren't resolved. I think the public has every right to know that the Unitarian Universalist religion in North America, as represented by the Unitarian Universalist Association, does have quite a serious clergy sexual misconduct problem. And that's, a broad term. Misconduct, basically it can be, fairly low-level stuff, a low-level sexual harassment, ministers making unwanted sexual advances on congregants and that sort of thing. Then you can get up to the ministers, having affairs with congregants, even using their congregations as harems, as it were. And then it goes up to actual criminal behavior like pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, not to mention Sunday school teachers and even music directors when it gets right down to it. So anyway,